Jim and Harry's Book Club. We are Facebook Live for those who are watching that way. And this is our teaching of Zahara Teaches What is Love, a book that was designed for ages, let's say 5 to 80 years old. And I wanted to explain to people why we are doing this particular book club. When our teacher, Sydney Banks, died or passed on, he left all this material, audio, video, and books for us to follow or to learn from and to continue to learn from. And to be honest, Jim and I have learned more since in the last couple of years from all of this material than all the rest of the time, which is over 50 years of learning from this person, this enlightened human being. And what he left has set the bar of allowing people to learn from the best teacher and to continue to learn. Because a lot of people in 3P, they get an insight and then they sort of settle into that insight. But when you look at the material that Sydney Banks has left, you see that this learning never stops. And that's what Jim and I are doing with the Zahara book. The Zahara series is that we are leaving behind when we pass on material that people can use so they can continue to learn, not just the level of consciousness that has been taught, but perhaps even a higher level of consciousness, something of a pure nature. And then we did the first book club on Zahara Asks What is Love, which was age 11 to 80 years old, and it was very successful. But the most success of that particular book club will be when Jim and I are gone. People will still have that as a reference to how to teach and what is the essence of what the books are intending to help people in Africa to alleviate their suffering, to heal, to find the answer to key questions in their life. And the book started as Zahara Asked What is Love, because a 13-year-old African young lady asked Harry, me, what is love? And when I answered that question, I wasn't happy with my answer, but it became obvious that there are certain key words in Africa that resonate with the soul of the people, and love is one of them. And thus I wrote in 2 weeks, Zahara Asked What is Love? And then Jim said, we need another book for the younger crowd and some added material, because the book was actually very successful in being accepted by the African people. The African people took to the book in a way that surprised us. It surprised us in the sense that they love a book, they want African characters, and they really wanted to learn from a book about love. And so I then created this second book in a week. I had several chapters already written out and I incorporated those, but I wrote the book in a week. And then Jim made an audio of this book as well. So both books are available in video or as like this on YouTube, and also on audio and digital. And so the first book is in English, Swahili, and French, and this book is in English and Swahili. And so you have the option to learn from the book. The book has gone out to schools, youth programs, and has helped thousands of people. And because of that, we have been encouraged to do this particular book club. And of course, there's another reason. Jim and I like like to share what we understand. And we learn when we share. So it's the same rule of life. If you share, you grow. And so we will see how we do with it. But I want to say one day Jim and I will be gone. We will be gone. We will move on. And these materials that we're creating here will stay on. And maybe if it helps a few more people or a lot more people, that would be fantastic. I want to give you what we are now. This is our third year 3P in Africa. And we started, or I started, and I had no idea what I was tapping into. But all I can tell you is that it has been a wonderful growing experience for us. And it has made our life fantastic, beyond our dreams. Now, what is the message of this particular book? This Zahara asks was about love. Now Zahara is older. She's now a teacher. So she started at 15. Now she's 22 years old, and she's teaching. And she's curious, just like I want all of you to be curious about what we are sharing, what you are learning. Curiosity is a wonderful thing. And what we hope is that this book will make you more curious and unravel your wisdom.
Okay, Harry, I will. The thing that strikes me most profoundly about these two books is that each one of them is an act of love for humanity. You know, we want to share throughout the world, and this is what we gather from our mentor, Sydney Banks. The three principles were articulated as a direct result of a need in humanity to understand how humanity works. And these all of the books that Sydney Banks wrote were all directed to that objective. And these two books are directed to that as well. And we have chosen seeing an incredible need to relieve suffering in Africa. And excuse me, we know we have the answer with the three principles to help alleviate that suffering. However, as we started sharing in Africa, we realized more and more about the way things are in Africa right now. If Harry would have written this book in a conventional way and published it on Amazon, he had every capacity to do that, and we could try to sell the book. You know, books are generally written with that. We'd like to make a little money out of our book as well as the attention that you get from the book. But really, when we got to Africa, we realized there was no money for books. And books are a rare commodity as we see it. And getting the work of Sydney Banks to the African people is a major lift because of the finances involved in such a thing. However, Harry, you came up with a brilliant idea. The simplicity of it, the metaphor of the action of writing a book and giving it free. Free. These are free books. This is free information given to you. And on top of that, the whole, I'll bring in the whole 3P in Africa team are working free. I guess we've broken that a little bit because we have Africans going into their community in the refugee camp, and they are receiving a bit of financial help for doing that. But the rest of us, the rest of the 3P Africa team, we all work free. We volunteer. We do it as an act of love. We do it as a means of trying to help alleviate the suffering in Africa. And that is a beautiful gift being given unconditionally, no matter who you are in Africa. you can access these books free. On top of that, we've made audio books of these two books, which I narrated, and I can tell you right there, those narrations are an act of love from me. Again, helping share these wonderful three principles that were given us by Sydney Banks. So I think that's really important. These books were written so quickly, they wouldn't have been written so quickly had they been, placed into the restrictions that happen normally when you write a book. They would probably still be in process. They're not. They are out there. They're available, and now here we are having a book club on the second of these two books to help spread the word and share the content as widely as we can. So that's what I want to address in these two things areas, that profound action gift manifestation of the truth as an act of love.
Yeah, thanks, Jim, and the joy of us working together. In a way, Jim spurs me and I spur him. We create an idea together. And sometimes when you write, you get this feeling that it's not just you. It's coming from God. And because Jim is there, he's even though I'm writing the words, he's there behind with the spirit, with the love. And that's what creates momentum in the right direction. I want to thank you, Jim, for all the encouragement and the joy we've had working together. Jim and I have gotten together a fair amount, and we always talk about the appreciation of how lucky we are at our age to be able to share with the beautiful souls of Africa. And we have been touched beyond compare. And these books are a product, they're coming from the African psyche. They wanted something that related to their culture, to their way of seeing, and to their minds with African characters. And to be honest, it's been a wonderful journey to create this. Zahara 1, Book 1, Zahara Book 2, and now I've created Zahara Book 3, not for the schools, more for that will be sold as a book, and I'm very proud of that. But I know that each step, Book 1, I grew. Book 2, I grew. Book 3, I grew. And Jim has been along for the ride for all of them. And I want to thank you for that, Jim. It's a little bit of the joy, a special perk of working with another beautiful soul. It really is. So
Yeah.
I guess we're about ready to. I better. We're going to play part of chapter 1 now, and then Jim and I and anybody else is welcome to join in, and we will go from there. Let me just share screen. And chapter 1 of Zahara teaches what is love.
Part 1, Zahara begins teaching. Miss Zahara had just been hired as a teacher at Success Roots School in Nakivale refugee camp. She wanted to teach the young students about traditional dancing, including Burundian drum, as well as Rwandese and Congolese culture and art. Deep in her heart, Zahara felt that sharing the traditional African ways deepens the self-esteem of African kids. They feel more pride and confidence in who they really are, and they enjoy these activities with childlike fun, glee, and fascination. She had been hired to teach the above, but her main assignment was to teach on the subject of happiness to young students in the school aged 5 to 15. She had uncovered a wealth of her understanding from reading Sydney Banks's books, The Teacher of the Three Principles, and just as importantly, talking to her grandmother, Bibi. Her grandmother, and listening to Sydney Banks's talks and books, had guided her to inner happiness and love. And now she was excited to find ways to share this wisdom with the young boys and girls. Bibi's knowledge had combined the wisdom of traditional Africa with the wisdom of the three principles. This is how she guided Zahara to experience her self-love and connection to God. As Bibi said, Zahara, share love in your heart and with others, and I promise you that you will live a gifted life of deeper and deeper levels of love and understanding. And always remember that when you share with me, you make me feel younger and more appreciated. So thank you, Zahara, for sharing your beautiful mind and loving heart with me. Zahara began to cry tears of joy as Bibi's words touched her soul. As Zahara's life grew in happiness and contentment, she felt a need to share this feeling with others, and that is why she became a teacher. Zahara remembered the book Dear Liza by Sydney Banks, where an adult had become afraid because he felt unsafe in a dangerous neighborhood in London, England. With a smile on her face, Liza offered her hand to the adult, saying, "As long as you hold my hand, you will be safe." Interestingly, Liza is 11 years old with no parents, as they both are in heaven. She lives in a dilapidated building, not as good as what the students of Success Roots are living in, while taking care of a younger child called Jenny, all by herself. This is how Zahara wanted her students to feel as well. If they were afraid, Miss Zahara would be there offering her hand of support and love. She wanted her students to trust her.
First, one of the feelings I wanted to touch, which is personal to me, is that African people have traditions and customs. And when I walked into the indigenous people of Africa, I was surprised how little they were touched by their past. And I wanted to bring in a feeling of the traditional nature of the people, because Jim and I have been touched by how pure the African soul is, how easily they receive love and wisdom and the three principles. And part of the reason I feel personally is because I feel that they come from an indigenous or a connection to Mother Earth, an indigenous connection to old teachings, old traditional teachings. And that was why I introduced the beginning of the book from that perspective, to bring an African traditional approach. And even though today's world, the African person generally starts their story from Christianity and when the white man came, I feel very strongly that before that is the reason we are here, the connection to that historical past. But to bring it alive, Zahara understood she had to teach about the three principles so that people could see, the kids could see something very, very important. When you love God and you love all the teachings that you've been exposed to, but you're unhappy, you get confused because psychologically you see life from a personal perspective, which is only natural, of course. So the book of Zahara is teaching the kids to love themselves, to find peace within themselves, along with the understanding that they are Africans. They're not North Americans. And that feeling creates beauty in their life. Go ahead, Jim, say a few things. I don't have that much to come to me
It
yet.
to be such a short chapter, Harry.
Yeah, it is. It is. Actually, I was surprised. Was that
I
the whole
thought,
chapter?
yeah, what's going on here? At any rate, there was a statement made at the very end of the chapter that is what it's all about, and that is that Zahara, as a teacher, was gaining the trust of her students. And that's what we're talking about here is trust, that feeling of trust. Uh, trust another word for trust is love. There's a connection between you when you trust someone. When you go to a new job or you're getting a new relationship, it's important to develop trust, that special feeling, that feeling that we often forget when we're going through our daily lives. And trust can be broken and lost so easily. When we're carrying on our relationships, we have to remember and be considerate and understand that you can get something freely. And teaching children through trust, in my view, is the only way. Otherwise, you are teaching negativity of some sort. You're teaching, I'm bigger than you, so you do what I say, or I hold the authority, so you do what I say, rather than we can trust one another and we can do what is right in the moment, rather than what one or the other feels would give them the power of the moment. So that is, I think that's central to everything that we do with three principles once we get that trust. And just to comment, a bit of an editorial on what I understand as being one of the practices in the mainstream of dealing with trauma is that you have to go into the past and relive the trauma with the client. And that is a very destructive premise. When you go into the past, as we know, according to 3P, it's creating negativity. When we go into past events, past traumas, we're recreating negativity in the moment. That's the three principles working right there. And when we become aware of that, we're getting into the next principle, which is consciousness. Awareness is consciousness. And we become aware that our negative thinking is what creates our negative feelings. And it's as simple as that. And the content of the experiences that were negative are actually irrelevant. It's the fact that we create that fear within ourselves, or that negative self image of ourselves that we don't deserve love and happiness. And we do. It's our birthright. Everybody does. So there's two things that I'm making a point on here. One is the fallacy of going into the past, which is being done almost at an epidemic level now by therapists, but the idea that it takes a long time to develop trust. Trust can be developed in 1 second. Trust can easily. I've done it many times, not 1 second particularly, probably, but certainly in a few minutes with conversation, you can reveal yourself, and you can offer the opportunity to the other people in a relationship to reveal themselves, and it has nothing to do with talking about the past. That can be a form, but it's basically the feeling. It's that feeling that we're projecting at that moment, that safety, that it's all okay. And the traumatized are waking up to that fact. And when they do, it doesn't take 20 years of rehashing more and more problems. It takes nothing more but going deeper and deeper into the feeling of safety, the feeling of trust, the feeling of love. So that's my
That's
comment on the beginning chapter.
yeah, that's Gerwin, maybe this point that Jim brings up about trust is really, really important. How Gerwin teaches in Success Root School and now in a youth program. Can you talk a little bit of how important trust is, Gerwin?
Yeah, hello everyone. Sorry for the lack of the video. We are having a power outage in Nakivale, so it is very dark. That's why my camera is off. So thank you so much for giving me the floor. I greet you all. Trust is very important because first of all, trust makes people to collaborate more, like especially in the community where we are. With lack of trust, we have seen a lot of problems arising in the communities. But when people come together, they trust one another, then they can work together for the development of their communities and also to have compassion with one another because they trust one another. We have seen cases whereby, due to lack of trust, people have been having problems, whereby we have seen even sometimes marriages are being broken, families being broken, split apart, just because of lack of trust. So with that, it comes to happen even at school in the classroom. Sometimes you find teachers fail to trust their students, and the students sometimes don't trust their teachers. And you find that this plays a very big role, which is negative to both the teachers and the students. Like there is a time you might find a student coming sometimes late at school, but the student has a clear reason why they are coming late. And when they reach at school, they explain the problem which they faced in the morning, which made them to be sometimes a bit late. But because of lack of trust, you'll see that the teachers will not believe that the student is telling the truth. So they will take the students, they will punish the students, they will give the student sticks, which will make this student who has been punished to hate the teacher. Actually, sometimes they hate teachers because they see that the teachers don't believe in them. They tell the truth, but the teachers don't believe in them. And with that, you find sometimes students start to dodge school. They start escaping from school because every time they see that teacher who does that to them, they feel like they don't want to see that teacher in the classroom. This one leads to the failure or to a poor performance of the students in the classroom. So as you see, all of this is happening just due to one fact, lack of trust. But when we have trust, we trust one another, I believe that everything can go okay and it can even improve um, on the performance of the students in the classroom, because even teachers sometimes they give homeworks to the students to work at home, but if the student performs well, the teacher will not believe that it is the student who did it. So they will start questioning them like, how did you manage to do this? Because we always see you like you are not someone who can do this. So with that one, it also makes the students to feel like the teachers are undermining their strength and their courage to improve on getting good marks at school. So this is one thing that I really noticed, which has been happening and which really needs to be addressed. So thank you so much.
That's beautiful, Corwin. It reminds me of when I walked into my daughter's class and taught there. And the thing I noticed was that the teachers, they all agreed what was wrong with the student. And then they taught to that student. When I came in, I saw that every kid was healthy. Every kid had a beauty to share. And that's what when I walked around my daughter's class, I worked with kids in a way that brought out their own unlimited potential without any barriers of this. We all agree this student has something wrong with them. What that did was it shocked my daughter because she saw that I was having fun with all the kids. And she had asked me to come into the classroom to deal with the most problematic kids, 2 specifically. And I says, no, I won't do that. I'm going to work with all the kids. I'm not going to single out this person as something that they have something wrong. And I just had a lot of fun. But I did notice that the teachers were always talking about what is wrong with the kids, and they all agreed. And because of that, the kids could feel that. They could feel the negativity coming from the teacher, the opinion, and it put them down and it lowered their self-esteem. And all I did was start to enjoy the kids, start to see how they are each individual and how they have all this incredible beauty inside them. Do not see your students as broken. They do not have problems unless you see the problem. And you start to talk to the kid like this. I am better than you. I know what you need, etc. The unusual quality of 3 principles is with trust. The feeling wakens up the teacher. With trust, the teacher listens to a deeper level. With trust, the teacher sees the beauty of the student. And every human being who's an adult is inspired by the smile and joy of a kid. Everyone. We all love the lift, the feeling. I know how important that is as a teacher. When I came into this class here, I was dead. Nothing was percolating. But after Jim shared and after Gerwin shared, a new fresh feeling came in. That's what trust does. It creates a new fresh feeling. That's what Zahara is wanting for her students, to have a fresh new feeling about who they are, to see their beauty. And Gerwin, you have mentioned how the 3 principles has lifted so many of the students and has also helped the parents to see that their kids like a good feeling. And that has developed what Jim is talking, that good feeling seems to handle everything. Everything. If there's a good feeling in the classroom, everything is easy. And if there's not a good feeling in the classroom, then you must use your wisdom as a teacher to go towards it. And that's very powerful. We pick up energy from the kids. We pick up energy because we need it. And as we pick up this energy, we start to see things on a practical level. So it's not only reading, writing, and arithmetic, it's human being to human being, developing a level of trust with each other. And from that feeling of trust, we see the unlimited possibilities of every kid in the universe. one of the other things I'd like to bring up with this book, that one of the things, Gerwin and Jim, that I wanted to depict from this book was the fact that dear Liza was living in a situation that was worse than the people in a refugee camp. And Zahara brought that up because there's a feeling in Africa that all people in America have so much and we have so little. And I wanted these students to understand that all over the world, there are people suffering. There's poverty everywhere. There's man's inequality. There's wars everywhere. Man blows up the world. And in that, what I have found is when you are suffering, when I am suffering, and I think I am the only one suffering, it doesn't feel the same as I see that all the other people in the world are also going through many of the things that I am going through. I'm not isolated in this feeling. And so the book introduces Dear Liza, which becomes a very important message of hope and wisdom for where the answer lies, to take the kids into a feeling of trust and then into their own wisdom. That's what I got to say for now, Jim.
Well, there's a couple of other points that I want to mention. It's
Yeah, go ahead.
all in the same vein about the trust in the teacher, and it has to do with truth, and not the highest form of truth, but a truth. There's a couple of truths that stand out, and it's not limited to African schools, but I've heard from Africans that one way they function, and this is the case in schools throughout the world to varying degrees, and that is the teacher is always right. Well, the guy's a teacher. My teacher told me, so it's got to be right. Well, if we don't realize that on our own, I'll help you. We're not always right. That is wrong. And if we try to conduct our daily life according to that, and this is the vast majority of teachers follow this, that the teacher is always right. He's expected to be right. Thereby, it's very rare that you're going to have a teacher apologize to a student. All you teachers out there, think about how many times you have apologized to a student when you've been wrong. And I know I taught for years without apologizing to a student. At one point during my career, I woke up and I realized that sometimes I'm wrong. And when I'm wrong, it behooves me to clear the air and apologize to anybody I may have offended and to clarify what I've learned. And I think that's a very important thing. Teachers are not always right. And if, as a teacher, you believe that you have to project a falsehood like that, your foundation as a teacher is crumbling. Your foundation should be one that goes for the highest truth. And that's a general rule in that. And another one is fear. Fear is not what we want to be teaching. Fear is taught all over the world every day. I mean, it just does not deserve to be taught in the false way that it is. But we don't see that unless we grow in our consciousness. But a frightened child is not going to be open to love. A frightened child is not going to be full-throated in his support of his teacher, his parent, his supervisor, his babysitter, whoever. We all feel the same way. There can be no love when there's fear. And so if we are observing how we are and how we feel, if we have the feeling of fear, we can release it by dropping our negative thinking. If we observe fearful reactions in others that we are interacting with, it behooves us to clarify and to go to love, to go to common agreement, to build that feeling of trust again. There will be no trust with fear.
It's powerful, Jim, what you're saying. Real very. Gerwin, can you address that as well? How fear destroys the student from learning, and when they let go of this fear, they tap into, well, to learning. Could you talk a little bit about that? You're muted.
Yeah, absolutely. So sharing from the experiences that I have acquired in the classroom, fear can really play a negative role in the success of the students in the classroom. Like there is a time you might find students being afraid of the teacher. When the teachers are not loving, you find the teachers are always looking angry, mad, so they don't show that kind of love or care to the students. So actually, most of the teachers here in Nakivale believe that when you are a teacher who always portrays himself as an angry person, then the students are going to fear you and the students are going to listen to you. So anytime you get in class, they feel like they are going to keep immediately quiet. It is not that the students respect the teacher, but it is because they fear the teacher. But many teachers believe that that is respect. So you find the students are in the classroom. When the teacher is in the classroom, they keep quiet instead of focusing on what the teacher is teaching, but the student's mind is somewhere else because they believe that if I try to talk or do anything, then this teacher is going to unleash his anger on me. So you find with that, all the classroom, all the students don't really follow with what you are up to as a teacher. So that fear makes them to fail instead of being focused. So you find students doing some stuffs at school out of fear, yet they have to do things out of love. Because when you do something that you love, there is a 50% possibility of succeeding. But when you are doing something out of fear, like they are forcing you, they are pushing you, so you are afraid. So you're like, let me just do it because I don't want to be beaten. Sometimes we find the students in the classroom doing some work in the classroom out of fear. So you find them shaking. They are doing the work, they are shaking. They are doing it faster, faster. So as a teacher, needs to needs to see how to approach the students and to show them love, to tell them not to worry, that everything will be okay, for them not to fear. But most of teachers don't do that. So they come there with a stick, they're like, do this, do this. So you find all students doing things out of fear, which will make them to fail. But when they do things out of love, when they do things when they are at ease, they are comfortable, then you find that these students will really perform very well in the classroom. That's why fear is very bad. Not even to the students, even to adults. even to us. Actually, I also used it to do things out of fear. And I can attest that anytime I used to do something out of fear, then I used it to fail. I never did that thing which I was doing successfully as I should. Actually, before I did not have good speaking qualities, like standing in front of people, public speaking. It's not like I did not really have the courage, enough courage, but I had that fear inside of me. And every time I could stand in front of a mass to speak, I would find myself shaking in front of people. So I said, like, why don't I have to face my fear? Why don't I have to see how I'm going to challenge myself? And that is when I started to learn how to challenge my fear, seeing the negative effect that fear can have on a person. So, since when I discovered the negative effects of fear, I never felt to speak again in front of people. So, it became easy for me. So, and I can stand in front even of 100 people and I take the floor and I talk normally, and people really feel like, yeah, this person really has good public speaking qualities. So I faced my fear, and that is what we were even teaching the students to always face their fears, because when we have graduation ceremonies at school, we always have a lot of activities. We let students present poems, um, MDDs, music, dance, and drama, all that stuff. But you find because of fear, someone has the skills, someone can present, but because they fear, so they're like, no, I will not manage. Or sometimes when they pass in front to perform, they do things wrongly the way they should not do them. It is not like they don't know. They know how to do those things because when we were practicing before doing it, they did it well and they presented to us, and we saw that these people are going to perform well. They are really ready. But once they see the mass, once they see people, that fear inside of them pushes them to not be concentrated, and then they forget what they were supposed to do. That's why fear is really bad, and we need to really, I think, teach students more on how to face their fear, how to challenge themselves, how to practice a lot. And this one will really help them to perform very well. Even in the exam, you find a student has not yet opened the examination paper. But once they see the examination paper is having like 5 pages, immediately they panic. They're like, oh my God, all of these, we are not going to do anything. Yeah, we are going to fail without even reading the questions. But once you make them to be calm, to relax, you explain to them the questions, then they're like, it is very simple. We can do it. So you see that that fear that had already attacked them was going to make them fail the examination without even answering the questions. They already failed before. But because they faced their fear and became brave and opened the examination paper, even if they looked to be many, but once they start answering the questions, they see that the exam is simple. And that is one of the challenges that we had been having before with the students. Once they just see the paper, immediately they panic. But I think for now, the performance has really improved because they have understood that anytime they face something challenging, they don't have to fear. They have to be courageous. And it is with that courage that will make them to succeed. Once they use that courage and they become calm in their mind, they get concentrated, then they will have good results. And I think that is what has been happening. Thank you.
Beautiful. And I want to emphasize to everyone out there is never any learning when there is fear and panic in a student's mind. It is our job to calm that mind down. A student can never learn anything. And that is why in Africa, many of the students, they memorize what the teacher is saying, but they don't hear what the teacher is saying. They don't hear the essence of the truth. When you memorize what someone says, all you are doing is repeating from your intellect. But in the three principles and what Zahara is teaching, we're talking about something that comes from inside you out. With fear, no learning. With trust, love, the student is free. And when a student starts to understand that, they listen to what the teacher is doing in a big way. But when they're just memorizing what the teacher is saying, they're learning in a little way. Just what they are just sort of pretending to learn. And in three principles, we teach you don't memorize. We teach you that it comes from a feeling within yourself out. And the only thing that blocks that is our beliefs around fear, panic. And every time we experience that, we have the opportunity to throw it away, as Gervin is talking about. We have that opportunity to throw it away. And every time we throw it away, you become more like a warrior. The path of the warrior is to throw away your fear. And when you throw away your fear, what you experience is the love within yourself, the love of yourself and the love of God together as one. And Zahara understands that. And that is why she uses this first chapter to loosen the students up to see that they are what Gervin is talking about. And Gervin, what you shared is so beautiful and so practical. And what Jim shared is so beautiful and so practical. It's wonderful. I now understand something, Gervin, that I didn't. This class is going to be between Jim, you, and me. The three of us are now going to present the rest of this class because you have stepped up to as a teacher and have a deeper understanding on a practical level of what people need to hear. It's so beautiful to see how you have grown. Can you talk just for a second how teaching the Zahara books have helped you to grow? Wonderful testimony to what the Zahara books are trying to point towards, how to learn from. Go ahead, Jim.
Sure. And also, as you know him far better than I do, but I have witnessed German, for close to.
It's Gervin. It's Gervin.
When I hear it, it's Gerwin.
Oh, okay.
When he comes back on, he might clarify that.
Okay.
But anyway, he has. Since he first started sharing in a World Forum, I have noticed him, what a fine speaker he was, how alive he was with the principles, and every time I've witnessed Gerwin sharing since then, it's verified. He continues to grow, and he's becoming more and more eloquent, and he is leading us in his experience in the classroom with a clear understanding of what 3P is all about. And it's like he's in a lab there for us, seeing the various results as he has the courage to apply these principles in a school where other teachers are using corporal punishment. You know, that's as far as I know. They may have stopped it in Success Roots now, and if so, that is brilliant, because then we have a whole school in Africa that's demonstrating the power of the principles. But Gerwin has been, a leader in the field and continues to be, and I love watching him grow. I
And
love
what's
watching you grow,
yeah,
Gerwin.
yeah, absolutely. And what's interesting, Jim, is he had the opportunity to share in Success Roots, but he had another opportunity through his scholarship where he's left temporary Success Roots and now he's teaching in a youth programs
Yeah,
just for because he understands the more he shares the three
the more he grows.
principles,
Yeah,
the more he grows.
yeah,
And it's a living testimony, as you say, to that. And
yeah,
it also shows how when you're inspired by the three principles, you can't help but share
yeah. Oh, it's
because
beautiful. Uh, and along that same line, as you were talking for Gerwin, um, and you and I are growing today. It continues. We will grow as long as we share. And so here we are, two elderly statesmen, and we are sharing because we want to continue to grow. Why should we stop? You know,
and what Jim is talking about is so profound. It's so simple. I'm telling you, I arrived dead, and and all this sharing has brought life into me, and it teaches me that this growing is not about attaining a goal or reaching a level. It's actually like acknowledging there's so much more to enjoy.
yeah, it's like riding a bike, Harry. If you stop pedaling, okay, you can coast for a while, but eventually
You've got to pedal again.
you got
Yeah,
to start pedaling. Yeah,
yeah, absolutely. And and that is what we're bringing into students. The students are sleepy, dead, except that is their man-made concept of life. And then when a teacher like Gerwin comes in and teaches the three principles and brings this alive feeling into the classroom, he doesn't know where it's going to go. The students don't know where it's going to go, but we let the spirit express itself. And Gerwin, you have learned to let the students and yourself express the spirit. And as Jim said, the testimony, you are the testimony of what we are, why we wrote Zahara. And also, perhaps you could say to finish how teaching the Zahara books have been beneficial to your classes, if you're there.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm here. I'm available. Yeah, thank you so much once more. Teaching the Zahara stories has been really beneficial to my class. Um, Also, to the youth program, which I recently started, started last week, and yesterday we had our second session, and I was so amazed to see how the youth have been really interested in the Zahara stories and the three principles, and also to see the kind of understanding that they are getting, which is very beneficial. So faster, they grasp the meaning of the words one by one as we are reading the stories. And also the questions that they asked me yesterday, I was really amazed. Actually, we tried to share yesterday the second part of the Zahara teaches, the Zahara asks what is love story. And after that, we had a sharing moment with the youth, and one youth asked me a question which captured me, and she was a lady. She asked if I really have love and my parents doesn't have love. Yes, I have love for my parents, but my parents takes alcohol, and when she is drunk, she is there, she doesn't show love to us. How can I help my parents? That's the question she asked me. And I was really touched. I was like, this young lady, even though she is really young, she understands and she really has that urge to help, to portray, to practice that compassion, that love to her parents. And she doesn't want to see her parents in that situation. And why does she not want to see her parents in that situation? It is because she understands love, which really touched me so much. I felt really so proud, I can say, of the sharings of the three principles, because these sharings have really helped these young people, and they also want to take these teachings to help their family members, which is really nice to see, because these people don't want to keep the sharings to themselves. Actually, some youth even told me like, we would really love to have these books with us, even at home. We start reading the stories to our family members. We also teach them, we explain to them so that they can also benefit more from these teachings, because we see that these teachings are really nice and they are very helpful. So, sharing the three principles is really nice. That's all I can say, because it gives you this feeling of love. They also make you to forget about your struggles, because the more you are sharing with the people, you hear everyone's story. Everyone comes with this story. You feel like the sharings of others are really empowering you. They are making you feel stronger, even if you are feeling like giving up. You feel like, oh my God, if this person has been able to go through this situation, it means I can also go through this situation and I overcome it. And that is the beauty of the three principles and all the sharings. Thank you so much.
Yeah, the three principles are the ultimate answer to alleviate all human suffering, as spoken by Sydney, as expressed by Sydney Banks. And what Gerwin is sharing is what Jim and I also feel. It has lifted our life into a dreamlike state, into a dream that keeps expanding, keeps happening. And it's a happening in the moment rather than I am the expert and you are the lesser. Jim, Gerwin, and Harry are not the experts, but we love to explore the depths of the three principles because it takes us into a closer relationship with God, a closer relationship with ourselves. And what I love of what Gerwin is sharing is he's epitomizing what I see is happening. The kids get this feeling of the relationship between a positive feeling and thought, and they take that to their family, and it affects the kids. It affects their brothers, their sisters. But of all things, they end up teaching the parents. The parents open up to their heart because every parent loves their kid. No matter what they're angry or whatever, every adult loves their kid. And when their kid comes in with more love, it changes them. And that's the way you change the world. So what Gerwin is doing, teaching the kids to love themselves and to ask questions about their parents, is the route to expand the level of consciousness, to expand the feeling of healing in a world that is sore, that is painful, that seems to have always, we have a lot of problems, but no answer. And when we read truth or experience truth, we see that these precious three principles alleviate and answer all problems. I know it's hard to understand, hard to believe. Even when I am stating that, Jim and Gerwin, I still find that hard to believe, but it is proving itself more and more each day that it is an absolute fact. And that is why it is a privilege to have written the Zahara books, so that I can hook up with the love of Jim. And then we hook up with the love of Gerwin, and he takes it out into the community. He's really the gift. He's the one who's expressing it to all these hundreds and hundreds of kids about something that is so simple, that love is always the answer, and fear and hate and vengeance and anger is not. Very simple, very simple. Do you like a good feeling, or do you like a bad feeling? I know right now, Gerwin, in the world, they actually are saying we like a bad feeling. But we know that within every human being, the truth is they love a good feeling. Everyone.
Harry, I'd like to expand a little bit on what Jerwin was sharing with the girl who talked to him regarding her alcoholic parent. And of course, as you know, um, it can be generalized into all addictions, all of the so-called negative addictions, drinking, drugs, like that. And we hear them talk about the negative spiral, and it keeps. What are the odds of that innocent child without 3P? Had she not found 3P, what would be the odds of her following in her mother's footsteps and becoming an alcoholic as well? We see this happening on and on. The children of alcoholics become children. We're trying to find genes that prove it, or something like this. This child had seen something from the three principles, and she was reaching out to help her mother. And if the spiral is going to be broken, that downward spiral, there's where it breaks. There's where the child has a chance to change herself. She also has a chance to watch her parent change. Should she hear? Should she see it from the inside? And her child bringing the message. I'm sure in many of those very, very rare cases where that spiral is broken, you will find a child.
And that's all that's required, is to change the thought pattern. The negative thought pattern, let it wash away. And what replaces it is not a Band-Aid on the sore, the alcohol is sort of stunted. What it is a fresh new start, a fresh new dream.
It's healing from within.
That's it. And that's actually what the Zahara book is, a healing within. Well, this has been a lot of fun, a real lot of fun. Gerwin,
Time.
hey,
You say, I've had a good time.
me too. Me too. I've loved it. Gerwin, we're going to call it Jim and Harry and Gerwin's book club now because we want you to be included. You offer so much sustenance. And it also epitomizes the change in 3P in Africa, where the leaders, we need Gerwin. It's not just we like to talk, we can talk, but with Gerwin, it adds a depth that we cannot bring in. It is, after all, Africa and Gerwin. So from now on, this book club for this series will be Harry, Jim, and how do you pronounce your last name? Your first name, Gerwin.
Actually, it depends on the person. Sometimes, for me, I pronounce it as Jervin.
Oh, Jerwin. Oh, just the way Jim says.
Yeah.
Okay, Jerwin.
Yay.
Okay, so Harry is wrong and Jerwin is right, and also Jim is right as well. Great.
And another comment I'd like to make, welcoming Jervin into the Harry, Jervin, and Jim book club. How wonderful to have somebody who's actually teaching the book to be part of our presentation. I mean, to me, it doubles our clout to have somebody in the field right now, such as Jervin, who understands what he's teaching and can pass on the benefits in real time. So that's an incredible.
Yeah, I agree with
That's
100%.
that's an incredible addition.
And it's the evolution where we are colleagues together rather than a teacher teaching down to his student.
Right.
Our teaching in 3P is about, we love where we are, but any student can jump past us in 1 second.
Every good teacher hopes his students will surpass him.
Yeah, it is. It's the greatest gift. And then we can learn from the student.
Yeah.
Isn't that so easy? I love that. I love that. Let us learn from where the energy and the spirit takes us. Don't have this idea. And also what I see, Gervin, is how you have allowed these 3 principles. You haven't rushed with them. You've allowed them to come into you naturally, and you have naturally been sharing them, and you've been growing at your own pace. But as you can see, both Jim and I are very impressed with how over time, because this is now your 3rd year in 3 principles, how you are now actually helping people more than you ever have by being just who you are. And that is the message of 3P. Be yourself. Don't have to be an expert in everything. And bringing questions like, how does a little girl help her parents who drink too much? Because that negativity is affecting the whole family. When a husband and a wife fight, it is affecting the kids. And how the kids can handle that affects how they are going to feel in that situation. So we're not talking about life is always perfect and it's easy and everything works out. We love that. We love that. But we're also talking about the essence of the 3 principles. When the outside force is negative, it does not need to affect the inside source of who you are. Or if it does, you know how to point yourself in the direction of trust, love, and happiness.